while the festival of Dionysus raged outside, the daughters of Minyas, unlike the other women, refused to participate. To pass the time, they told stories amongst themselves. One of the sisters suggested they take turns sharing a tale to keep themselves entertained. Their impiety didn't go unnoticed. The priest had instructed all women, young and old, to abandon their chores, adorn themselves with animal skins and garlands, and carry Thisbe, staffs, in their hands. He warned them of the god's wrath if they failed to comply. Most women obeyed. They put down their unfinished tasks, offered incense, and invoked Dionysus by his many names: Bromius, Laius, son of the flames, twice born, the one with two mothers, Semele and Ino. They also praised him as Nicias, Thionius, unshorn, Lennius, wine god, Nactilius, nighttime, Elelus, father of cries, Iacchus, and Evan. They acknowledged his eternal youth, his beauty, and his boyish appearance, even when uncrowned. The women sang of his conquests in the east, reaching faraway India. They praised him for punishing the impious Pentheus and Lycurgus, and for drowning the Etrurians. They spoke of him riding a chariot pulled by lynxes, adorned with colorful reins. They described his followers, the Bacchantes, satyrs, and the drunken Silenus, who clung precariously to his donkey. They sang of the joyous sounds that accompanied him, the shouts of youths, the voices of women, the rhythmic beating of tambourines and cymbals, and the melody of the long flutes. Finally, they implored the god's mercy and promised to celebrate his rituals properly. However, the daughters of Minyas remained indoors, ignoring the festivities. They busied themselves with carding wool, spinning thread, and weaving cloth, keeping their maids working as well. One of the sisters, drawing thread with her thumb, suggested they use their time for storytelling instead of participating in these fanciful rites. They could each share a tale to pass the time. The other sisters agreed and asked her to begin. The storyteller pondered her many options. She debated whether to tell the story of Dercetis, a Babylonian goddess now transformed into a fish-tailed creature living in a lake, or the story of her winged daughter. Another possibility was the tale of a naiad, water nymph, who used magic to transform young men into fish, only to be cursed with the same fate herself. Finally, she chose a less common story, the tale of how a tree, once bearing white fruit, came to produce purple fruit after being stained with blood. This is the story she began to weave, her voice accompanying the rhythmic thrum of the wool against the spindle. Among the daughters of Minyas, one decided to tell a story. She chose the tale of Pyramus and Thisbe, two beautiful young people who lived in neighboring houses within the walled city built by Semiramis. Their proximity allowed their love to blossom, but their parents forbade them from marrying. Despite the opposition, their affection grew stronger. Unable to speak freely, they communicated through a small crack in the wall separating their houses. Whispers of love and longing passed through this secret passage. Often, they would stand on opposite sides of the wall, their breaths mingling. They'd lament their situation, wishing the wall would disappear or at least open enough for a kiss. One night, they decided to defy their parents and escape together. They agreed to meet under the shade of a mulberry tree near the tomb of Minyas after dark. Thisbe arrived first, boldened by love. Suddenly, a lioness emerged, its jaws stained with blood from a recent kill, approaching the spring to quench its thirst. Seeing the lioness in the moonlight, Thisbe fled in terror to a cave, dropping her veil in her haste. The lioness, after drinking from the spring, found the veil and tore it to shreds in its bloody jaws.
Later, Pyramus arrived and saw the lion's paw prints in the dust. He turned pale, and upon finding Thisbe's blood-stained veil, he became convinced she was dead. "This night will be the ruin of two lovers," he cried, blaming himself for sending her to a dangerous place alone. He wished for the lions to devour him, but declared it cowardly to wait for death. Taking Thisbe's veil, he went to the mulberry tree. Kissing the garment and weeping, he spoke to it, "Receive my blood too." With that, he plunged his sword into his belly and fell back, blood spurting from the wound like water bursting from a broken pipe. The blood splattered onto the white mulberries, staining them a dark purple. Unbeknownst to Pyramus, Thisbe had returned, eager to share her escape from the lion. She searched for him, her love guiding her. Upon reaching the tree, she was confused by the sight of the transformed fruit. Hesitantly, she approached and saw Pyramus's body, his limbs still trembling. Horror struck her. She stumbled back, pale and trembling. But soon recognizing her lover, she wailed and tore at her hair. Embracing his cold body, she cried out, "Pyramus, what has happened? Answer me, it's Thisbe, your love, calling you." At the sound of her name, Pyramus opened his eyes, heavy with death, only to close them again forever. Seeing her own veil and the empty sword sheath, Thisbe understood. "Your love and your own hand have destroyed you," she cried. "I too have the courage and the love. It will give me strength for the wound." Vowing to follow him in death, she declared, "I will be called the most unhappy cause and companion of your fate. Death itself couldn't tear you from me, and now not even death will keep us apart." She addressed their parents, pleading for them to be buried together, united in their final moments. Finally, she turned to the mulberry tree. "You now shade one unfortunate body, but soon you will cover two. Keep this as a reminder of our fate, bear black fruit, forever mourning the blood of us two." With these words, she took the sword still warm with Pyramus's blood and plunged it into her own chest. The gods, moved by their prayers and their parents' grief, answered their final wish. The mulberries forever remained black, and their ashes were laid to rest in the same urn.